I'm going to record this because this is the last one I'm going to do. I've done an awful lot. I think if I do many more, I will be really, really stale. But also, if I record it, then hopefully people will watch it after the fact. And I also think once you get into December, schools are just so busy that no one's got really time or to take on this new information. So this was the offer that I made available on Dyslexia Awareness Week. And to give you a little bit of background, um, every year, I've probably been doing this for 6 years, and every year in Dyslexia Awareness Week, I think of a new way of promoting not dyslexia awareness, but awareness of technology that can help overcome dyslexia. So this year I did a webinar, a free webinar, which was Stop Dyslexics Underperforming in Exams. And I paid to publicize it far and wide on public media or on social media. And when people registered, I got them to say whether they were a parent, an educational professional, or both. And the vast majority of people that signed up were parents, not educational professionals. And in the 6 years I've been doing this, that is always the case. And I really want to try and get through to the message through to educational professionals. So I thought, well, how can I do that? So when I gave this webinar and when I promoted it, I said to all the parents, if you can ask the Sencos of your children's schools to contact me, I'll give them an hour's free consultancy. So that's where it came out. So it's coming out of this Stop Dyslexic Underperforming in Exams. And this is something I feel very passionately about, and you'll understand why as I go on. But I believe that many children with dyslexia and other special needs are very bright. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And yet they underachieve academically. And sadly, they wrongly believe that they're stupid. And this is because the education system often mistakes literacy for intelligence. Now, dyslexics like myself, we do struggle with literacy. And the great news is that technology helps us overcome those problems with literacy. I use technology every day to help me overcome my problems with literacy. And I figured out that if I could help students use that, then they could reach their full potential and use their dyslexic strengths to do well in subjects rather than always being held back by their abilities in literacy. And what normally really, really shocks people when I show them this presentation is how much of this technology is widely available, that most people already have it. Most schools already have it. A lot of you with phones, you have an awful lot of this technology on your phone already. So some of it is very reasonably priced, some of it is cheap, but very few people know it exists. And as a result, learners continue to struggle needlessly when they actually own the technology that would help them. And a large part of the reason for this is it's not in anybody's interest to promote free technology because they don't earn any commission, they don't earn anything from it. And then what a lot of organizations do is they take this free technology that's available that no one knows about, and they add on a few bells and whistles, and then they make schools pay for it and they publicize that rather than the free solutions. So I'm trying to publicize the free and the reasonably priced that a lot of people have already got. But I have a lot more success with families and schools. And I think one of the reasons for this is a lot of schools have been burnt. And I do not believe that technology is a cure-all. I do not believe it is a magic wand. I think it has an incredible potential, but it does not guarantee success. And it's how you implement it that's important. And I try to make myself available to schools so they don't make bad purchasing decisions. Because I think in every school, there's normally somebody in the IT department that has been burnt and therefore is very reluctant to use technology and get new technology because they've had bad experiences in the past. And I'm not for that. I'm for small, iterative, easy things that can really, really help children. And I have been teaching families for probably 6 years now. But when I teach a family, I can take many hours to teach them, and I help one family. There might be multiple children in that family I help, but I help one family. And I thought what I'd be doing when I decided to do this is I'd be teaching teachers. And in that, I help hundreds of families over the lifetime of the teacher. But I'm particularly excited about reaching out to Sencos because in each year group, the people that can benefit from this. So you have the potential to help thousands of families over the years because you go across all year groups. So that's why I'm really excited about doing this. And my objective in doing this is to save you time, to raise awareness of the solutions that are available. You won't be expert in anything, but I'm going to give you I'm going to provide you with where to find out more information. And I'm going to show you a few key solutions in detail. I'm going to try and answer your questions, and I hope to whet your appetite that you will want to find out more. Now, Achieve Now can make me sound a lot more professional than I am. When I started this up, I could have just called it Caroline Bateman Learning Consulting. But what does that mean? And who's Caroline Bateman? But what I was trying to do is just help children achieve right now, without great big long time scales in buying stuff and investing in stuff, but with what you've got right now. And that's what I'm all about. And why I did this is I have 3 dyslexic children, and this shows them around the kitchen table when things were going well, but things weren't always going well. We were screaming, pulling our hair out, hating one another. They were all doing very badly at school. They all hated school. And so I finally worked out quite late in the day that all 3 of them were dyslexic. And then as I was finding out more about this new thing, dyslexia, I thought, oh, I'm obviously dyslexic, and so is my husband. But both my husband and I both did very well in school, and we're both working class kids, made good through education. I got a 2-1 in a business degree. I've been working in the IT industry, and we expected our kids to be, do well. They were all in local state schools. And then one by one, I sort of took them out and put them in more dyslexia friendly schools. So my son went to literally a dyslexia specialist school, and my girls just went to a private school with a great learning support department. But even then, they weren't thriving. And that really confused me because I felt like, look, I've outsourced that. I'm paying for you. It should be all fine now. But it wasn't. And so in the end, we made the decision that I would give up work and support their learning. They still went to school. I wasn't a homeschooler, but from when they got home at sort of 3:30 till they went to bed, I supported their learning. And while they were at school in the day, I would research technology because I kept thinking there's got to be some technology to help. This is not that hard. And that's what I did in the day. And I was absolutely amazed by what I found. My kids, they did really well, and I got them up and running. And just to give you an update now, my son, well, I'll tell you my eldest first. My eldest did not read a chapter book till she was in year 8, did all the easier subjects in year 9 when it came to choosing her options. They said, oh, do double science, not triple. She wouldn't be any good at that. And, oh, don't make her do history. She's too dyslexic. It would be too hard for her. But in the end, she actually did amazingly well in her GCSE. She seemed to come into her own in year 10 and 11. And she even got an offer of a place at Cambridge, which if you'd have told me that when she was in year 9, I just wouldn't have believed you. Now, as it happened, she didn't get into Cambridge because even though she passed their entrance exams, she didn't get the A-level results she needed because it isn't a magic wand. And I got her from being like a DC student to an A star student, but I hadn't managed to do enough to guarantee the A levels. She's still dyslexic. So I don't think it's a cure-all, but I think it really can help. Now, my son, he's 19. He's in 2nd year at Warwick University studying pure maths. He got 3 A stars at A level. Both my kids are on for a first. She's in 4th year at Bath and she's on for a first, and he's on for a first and has already been offered a job with a cybersecurity company. But he's hoping to do an internship with someone like GCHQ because he's got this brain. He still can't read very well. He can't spell for toffee, but he sees patterns and he's like a maths genius. So that's what he's hoping to go. He wants to be sort of a code breaker. So that's my children. And I set up Achieve Now because once I figured out how to help them, I felt I couldn't, with all good conscience, go back and just sell software to blue chip companies. I had to get this information out because my kids were in some of the best dyslexia supporting schools, and yet they weren't using this technology. And I felt like I can't just go back to work. I've got to spread the word. So the whole point of Achieve Now is to pass on what I've seen work. I do not sell any solutions. I do not get any commission. I do not get any affiliate links or anything. I just give impartial advice. And the way I stop learners struggling needlessly is I teach both students, parents, and educational professionals, and I can do this remotely or in school. I offer a very reasonably priced consultancy service, both for families and schools. And probably what you're most interested in is I create a lot of free videos. And I do this because I really want to get the word out there. And in 6 years, I haven't got it out there enough. And I'm not going to be doing this for that much longer. My husband's semi-retired. I'm hoping to sort of to do other things as well. And so I've created these videos and I've created ebooks, and I'm going to show you where to get those. But I do want to show you that I haven't only helped my own children. So if you went into my Google reviews, you would see lots of reviews from parents saying how much I helped their children achieve, how I turn around their confidence, so there's a lot there, but they're mostly from parents and from students. This Rachel Glaze is actually a student, but there aren't as many from teachers as I would like. There aren't hardly any from Sencos. So what I am asking for is, if you find this helpful, I'm asking for you to create a Google review for me, hopefully on Google. A review that I can use anywhere, great. But if it's on Google, then people can see that it's real and it's independent, because that might help me get through to more schools. And that is very, very important to me. So if you want to find my free ebooks, if you go on my website, that's my website address. You go into resources, and then you see a page like this, and you can click on different resources. So this is about building self-esteem. This is about free solutions, online learning tools. I've got lots of free resources on there. And I will send you a copy of these slides, which is one of the reasons I got your worked out who you were, so I can send the slides to you. And then you have these links, and you can go and click on these links, and it will take you to my website or my YouTube channel. So I have an awful lot of videos on the YouTube channel, and I'm adding to them a lot. So I have created videos recently about all the free dictation solutions, and I've compared them to one another so you can help decide which is the best one for you. But it takes me ages to edit them. So if you want to be informed when I do publish those videos, if you subscribe to my channel and then hit the bell button, you'll be informed when I create new videos. So that is something worth doing, and it's probably something worth letting the parents of dyslexic kids know about, because they can also just learn directly from it. And this is something that I've got in the slides, because I will send it to you, because it's great for parents to find which of the videos is the best place for them to start. So if we go back to where this all started, in Dyslexia Awareness Week, I was trying to stop dyslexics underperforming in exams. Now, if you're in a primary school, which I think, the Russell, are you a primary school or are you a secondary school? Primary school. And the virtual school, what are you? Both. Yeah, I lip read there. So really, if you're in a primary school, formal exams seem an awful long way off. And I am going to start this webinar by talking about what should we have in place for 16 and 18-year-olds when they do their GCSEs, when they do their A-levels, what should be in place. So you could think, well, I'm in a primary school, it's not relevant for me, but it is, because 15 and 3/4-year-olds don't suddenly go, oh, I know how to use this technology. You have to have the building blocks in place such that they know how to use it when they're 16. So I'm going to start with the end and then move backwards. And I love this cartoon, and I think it does depict what I'm trying to stop, because I do believe that there is a lot of talent within the dyslexic and children with ADHD and other different learning differences. And they can go on and make fantastic contributions to society, their careers in higher education. But because the education system isn't set up to encourage their way of learning, the school can absolutely kill their self-esteem. And so these learners need additional support, be it technological, teaching, or parental, to reach their full potential. Now, I personally didn't get any additional support because I didn't know, I was dyslexic, but I did well. But I'm absolutely convinced that had I had any of this support, I would have done a lot better. I did not reach my potential because I was making up my ways of studying, and I didn't realize everyone else wasn't like me. Now, this article in The Independent, again, when you have the slides, you can click here to read it, talks about how the exam system as it is discriminates against students with learning needs. And it goes on and explains about students achieving GCSE English and Maths grades 9, well, I'd say 4 to 9, the other way around. And those without learning needs, 70.6% of students pass. And those with dyslexia, 35% pass. Now, we know that dyslexia has not got anything to do with intelligence, so they should be similar, but they're not. So you can read that article, but the article focuses on English and Maths GCSEs. And the reason why is they are gatekeeper qualifications. Without them, it's very, very hard to go on and get into the further and higher education courses where these students could use their dyslexic strengths, because obviously there are strengths as well as weaknesses with dyslexia, but without basic English language and Maths GCSE, it's really, really hard to go on and do anything else. It's not impossible, but it does make it very hard. And I particularly want to speak about English language GCSE, because this is recording. I just had this horrible feeling it wasn't recording. I'm sure it's recording, but yes, it is. That's good. I just had, I normally see, I can see where it's recording. So I particularly want to talk about English language GCSE. My son, I worked really hard with him before his English language GCSE, and he scraped a grade 4. And we could not have been happier because he'd done it. Once he had that 4, he could go to university. Now, when I decided to give up work, my very good friend and neighbor, who is a pediatric consultant oncologist, had 2 dyslexic boys. And because she was saving children's lives every day, unlike me, she didn't give up work to support her kids, but she paid for them to go to a boarding school, which she was assured would give her children the best start of an education. And one of her sons has failed GCSE English 7 times. He still hasn't passed it. Now, that really affects your life. It affects your self-esteem and it affects your future life choices. And I have done everything I can to get into that school to teach them for free what they need to be doing. But they think they don't know what they don't know. And they think that they're great and they give boys the best chance that they possibly can. But this is what I'm trying to guard against, to give children the tools that they need not to be in that circumstance, but to be like my son and get the grade 4 if that's all they can get. He got a grade 6 in English literature, which really surprised us all. So if we're going to stop dyslexics underperforming in exams, we've got to ask the question, well, why do they underperform in school? Because the exams are just the culmination of school. And the reason why they underperform in school, I think I've already alluded to. Schools don't teach the way dyslexic learn. Exams measure dyslexic weaknesses rather than dyslexic strengths. We mistake literacy for intelligence. And because of all these things, we have very low expectations, and our students have very low expectations of what they can achieve, and therefore very often live down to those expectations. But something that often shocks parents and schools is the JCQ actually encourages dyslexic students to use technology in exams. They are not the bottleneck. They are not what's stopping students. It's not like they're not allowing it. They say, yeah, you should use it. And it actually says what you should use. And you can see where I've got it from, and I've given you the reference to go down to. And they say that if you are using this technology, it's better preparation for further and higher education in the world of employment, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Because what's happening is schools expect students to read in order to learn. To actually study for your GCSEs requires a lot of reading, be it textbooks, be it notes, be it on the internet. And schools expect students, as they're learning new information and the teacher's talking, to write notes of what was said. And if you're thinking, well, I don't know how to spell that and I can't read that, you're not engaged in the lesson. You're not answering questions. You're not asking questions to check your understanding, but you're a few sentences behind all the time trying to write notes. And no one has ever got into college because they had a conversation where they explained how well they understood their subject. They have to write in order to pass exams to get into these colleges where they can show their dyslexic strengths. But the good news is technology is available in each of those areas to overcome the problems. And when it comes to exams, exams are always a test of speed as well as knowledge. So these are all the things that exams involved, and they're all things that dyslexics struggle with. But I particularly want to focus today on speed reading and speed writing. And I'm going to show you that technology is available to overcome problems in both these areas. So what technology do I say that it would benefit students to use at 16? I think every student with dyslexia should be able to have a computer reader and be a laptop user. So the computer reader, and that's known as text-to-speech or read aloud, will read the exam paper to them. Now, some students have a human reader, but this is a computer reader. And I would have them as a laptop user, so they are typing their answers rather than writing their answers. So just to go into a bit more detail, if you have a computer reader, it just improves the confidence of students because they're not anxious about what if I read it wrong, what if I read it slowly in this test of speed. But also it means your student is less likely to go off on a tangent and answer the wrong question. So they might put lots of factually correct information down, but it's not answering the question, so they're not getting marks for it. And if they're a laptop user, a lot of students come to me because they have a poor pencil grip, or the hands hurt, or it's illegible, or the handwriting is slow. So I'm able to help my students to type 2, 3, or 4 times faster than they can write. And I'm going to show you in another slide why that's important. But the other thing that I adore about typing for me and for all the students I work with is we dyslexics are not lateral thinkers. When we see an exam question or a homework question, it's not natural for us to go, okay, right, I know how I'm going to introduce that. Then this would be my logical first point, and this would be my logical second point, and then I'll conclude with this. No, when I see a question, I think, oh, must say that, mustn't forget this, must put that in. I think that's relevant. Now, if you type, what you're able to do is you're able to brainstorm, get it all down. This, must remember this. Okay, right. Well, how am I going to introduce this? I'll take that up to the top and I'll put this sentence there. And then what's the next point? I'll bring this up. And it's a different way of working, but it suits those of us that don't think in a linear format. And also, if we make a mistake, it's really easy to correct it because we can cut and paste very, very easily. Whereas when you write and you think, oh, I forgot to put that in, you've got to put arrows, you've got to write in between the lines, not easy to mark. So absolutely fab. And also I teach my students to touch type. And if you touch type, if the correct spellings are provided on the exam paper, you can copy those correct spellings without slowing down. So absolutely fabulous if they are laptop users. So I'm going to just show you a little bit more about a computer reader. This is an English GCSE paper, and this is the question paper. And this is the insert, the source that they need to read in order to answer. Now, if I were using a human reader, the human reader could read this information and this information, just the questions, but they couldn't read the text. So that's the text and this is the text. They couldn't read that because the whole point of an English comprehension exam is to test the English comprehension of the student. So if a reader reads it, they haven't tested the student's comprehension. But with a computer reader, that same paper, they can also read the questions, but they can read the source paper. And that makes a huge difference for the students. Now, if you think about, English language, GCSE, which is super important that our students pass, if they have the source paper read aloud to them, as opposed to having to slowly read it themselves and read it multiple times to check that they have got the meaning enough to answer the questions, of course, they're at an advantage if they have a computer reader. And it is not a hard access arrangement to get because it's classed as independent work. So it just needs to be a student's normal way of working. And here we see just one of, this is Claro Read SE, and I downloaded it for free off the internet. As a school, you couldn't have it free, but I just wanted to show you, just open this up, you put where you want it to read, and this is the voice, this is the speed, and you can just have it read aloud. Now, I'm going to do you a little demo of text to speech, but I'm not using that same computer reader. And that's because the majority of the people that signed up for this were primary schools. So I wanted to show you something that was useful for both primary and secondary schools. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a chemistry revision booklet that my son brought home when he was in year 6. And he came home one night and he was really excited about the fact that he was going to revise for a chemistry exam. And that was quite unusual because he was excited about revising for an exam. And I know nothing about chemistry. I have 2 other children, but the only way my son, who's quite good at chemistry, could revise was if I read it for him. So I thought, oh, crumbs. So that means, chippy tea tonight, because I can't cook and pick my girls up and read it to him. So I read it to him, but as I was reading, I thought, oh, this is a Word document. So I emailed his teacher and I asked the teacher if she would email me a copy of the Word document, which she did. And this is what it looked like. This is the same chemistry revision booklet that my son had. And because he now had a hard copy, I could do this.
As you know, there is a copy of the periodic table in your prep diary. All of the known elements are listed.
And here I can change the speed, and I can change the voice, and I can jump to the next.
Definition of an element. An element is a substance that contains only one type. You may ask, why aren't water or carbon dioxide?
So I am in Office or Microsoft 365. I'm in Word. I've opened up that document and I can have it read aloud. That was a game changer in our house. And my son didn't like it. My son didn't go, oh, great, Mum, I love this. Let me use it. He was like, Mum, I preferred you to read to me. Oh, no, I don't like this. I don't like the electronic voice. But I explained to him, I'm not coming to university with you. If you can't read, you're going to have to get used to this voice. And he did. He overcame it. But there's some other stuff in here that I can show you. If you go into View, you go into something called Immersive Reader, and you can set up how you, as a particular learner, like to see your documents. So the first thing you can see is the page color. So you can change the page color to be whatever you prefer. And it will always, whenever you go into this, it will go into your page color, but it's only changing your view. So if you have many people collaborating on a project, they could all see it differently and have different immersive reading experiences. And if you print it out, none of this shows. This is just how it shows on the screen. So then we can use a line focus. So we could look at one line at a time instead of reading them all. We could change the text spacing. Let's take the line focus off because I don't like that. We can change the text spacing. Here we've got syllable division. We've done that, and then we can have it read aloud.
Already recorded an information call mediator atom, namely hydrogen and oxygen, so water.
So you've got this little toolbar where you can slow things down and speed it up. So column width, I don't find that useful, but some students do. Column width, page color, line focus, text spacing, syllables, read aloud, or just close it and go back to normal. So that is text to speech. But text to speech, if I come back to my PowerPoint slide, if you have text on a device, it can be read to you. But exactly how you get it read to you depends on the type of device and what it is you're reading. And so what I've done is I've created a playlist on my YouTube channel that goes into all the different ways you can use text to speech. And what might be helpful is if I actually go into, I think this is it, right? This is my web page, and this is my my YouTube channel. And if you wanted to find anything in particular, you come here and you put in text to speech. And then all the videos to do with text to speech will come up. But I would particularly recommend you come here. And this is my playlist. So I start off with a 1-minute overview of what text to speech is. I then go into the examples, and one of them is a chemistry revision booklet. The other one is a more grown-up example of how I use it in my daily life. And then I say, well, okay, dependent on the device you're using, this is Office 365. This is an old version of Office 2016 or 2010. This is on an iPad. This is on a Mac. This is on Word Online. And there's just lots and lots of different options. This is Google Docs, and it shows a lot more than just text to speech on Google Docs. And if we come down, this is amazing. This is a free app that you can have on a phone or a tablet, that if you had a hard copy worksheet, it would take a photograph of it. And then if the student was wearing headphones, it would read that hard copy to the student. And if it was a worksheet that they needed to complete, they could press a button, turn it into a Word document or a PowerPoint document, and then they could type in their answers on the worksheet or dictate them and then email it back to the teacher. And it is a free app. Now, there are lots of apps that charge you for that, but there aren't, well, I think there's more than one free app, but that is a fantastic free app that I wanted to make you aware of. So that is a really, really helpful set of videos on my YouTube channel. So that's everything I was going to show you about having text read aloud. Now I'm going to look into the advantages of touch typing. And first of all, I'm going to look at touch typing in exams. So how could typing impact on a student's exam results? And how I do this is I look at handwriting speed, and then I look at typing speed. And for handwriting speed, your average 16-year-old, not with a poor pencil grip, but just your average 16-year-old, write about 19 words a minute. And if someone has kind of persevered with a self-teach typing package, they probably get to about 29 words a minute. It tends to be a ceiling around 30 words a minute. They don't tend to get over that when they're just doing it themselves. And a lot of students don't even hit there. So if we had a 3-hour GCSE essay-based exam, I would suggest, even without extra time, that students would be writing for 2.5 hours. Now, if you write for 2.5 hours at 19 words a minute, you're going to write about 190 sentences. If you are an okay typist, you would be able to type 100 more sentences in the same time period. Now that you're also able to move things around and organize your thoughts. If you have a processing speed, you just have that more time to organize because you can write so much more. But when I work with students, my goal is for my 16-year-olds to be able to type at about 50 words a minute. I get some in the 60s, some don't get above 40, but 50 is a pretty average typing speed that I get for my 16-year-olds. Now that means they could write in the same time period an extra 310 sentences. So that's going to make a difference between failing and passing. It could actually be the difference between failing and getting a very good grade. And I go into that a lot more in this particular video. And it's how I motivate a lot of my students to learn to type, because students don't want to learn to type. It's boring, it's time consuming. And so they have to see the benefits. So they have an intrinsic motivation that helps them type. Because, well, I'll go on and talk more about students and motivation later. But if we've looked at typing in exams, but typing is even more helpful when it comes to coursework. And this is how I persuaded my son to learn to type. So here we see a piece of work that he did, and he worked hard on it. It was a bit of descriptive writing. He went to a dyslexia-friendly school, so they didn't put red swirls all over his mistakes, but there are lots of mistakes there, but my son couldn't see them. So what I did is for every character he wrote, I repeated it here. And I wanted to see him to see the extra help that he would get if he typed it rather than wrote it. And here we see what I created. And we all know that you get help with spelling and grammar. There's nothing new there. But say for my son, if he got that red squiggly line and he said, well, what's the difference, which one? He wouldn't know which one of those was correct. He'd just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And he'd get rid of the squiggly line, but he might get rid of it with a correctly spelt word that wasn't correct. But what he can now do is he can do this.
Always, similar to, continuously, forever, continually.
So that makes spell check a lot more helpful. The other thing with my son that he found really helpful is because he never read, he had a very limited vocabulary. So if he had to write a lot about somebody who was angry, he would use the same word over again. Angry, angry, angry. It would be a bit repetitive. So I taught him if you write how mouse clicks comes down to synonyms, he could then say annoyed, mad, furious, indignant, enraged. And if that wasn't enough, he could then come into thesaurus and say fuming, livid, irate, heated, cross, infuriated. There's just a lot of help with, my brain's not working, with vocabulary if you type your work. But probably the most important thing that you get if you type your work that you don't get if you write it is this. I'm just going to switch that off.
He's got a mop of red surly hair and freckles. He very one like Luke because he always got a joke that makes us laugh.
So he couldn't see his mistakes, but he could hear his mistakes. So if a student types their work, not only do they get help with spelling and grammar and vocabulary, they also can hear it. And when they hear it, they've got far more chance of hearing mistakes and correcting their work. I'm now going to show you the same document, but instead of using Word that's been installed on my machine, which I showed you Microsoft 365 previously, I'm now going to show you the same document in Word Online. So I'm no longer in an installation of Word. I am on the internet and I'm looking at the same document. Now, this is an addition to the webinar because I couldn't get this to work for some strange reason on the webinar. I've never had any problems with it before, but I'm now just adding this to the video. So let's look at this same Word document, descriptive writing to proofread, which is here. And all the functionality that I've shown you in Office 365 or Microsoft 365 as it's now called works online, but the online version is completely free and can be used on anything, a MacBook, a Chromebook, an iPad. So it's really worth knowing about, but it has some beautiful functionality that is only available on Word Online and not in the paid version that I want to show you. So you see it by going into the view and looking for Immersive Reader. So I have said in the past that the way I want to see this document, this is just a view, is with a black background. And then when we look here, we see parts of speech. And so it's saying all the nouns are purple, the verbs are red, the adjectives are green, and the adverbs are orange or mustard. Now that is fantastic for my students because I teach them we need to make our sentences really, really colourful, and we can see that there is an absence of the mustard colour here, so the child needs to add more adverbs. But if the colour coding isn't enough, you can actually show the labels noun, verb, adjective. So I think that's really lovely. And then something else that my students really like, and my primary students really like, is you have picture dictionary. So you've got line focus, but I've already showed you that. We have picture dictionary here, and we can choose a language to translate to. And let's find French, and we're going to do it by word. So now I'm going to come to my writing, and this makes more sense if you are reading something like the chemistry revision booklet and there's a word in it that you don't know, and instead of looking for a dictionary definition that the student has to read, instead you could just click here and we see a picture definition of tallest, but we can also find out how to say tallest in French.
Plus grand.
And that's in a French accent. Now, the translate is available in Microsoft 365, but having the parts of speech coloured differently and the picture dictionary is only available in Word Online. I hope you agree. If you type your work, you get an awful lot of help. And I have already done the demo. Now I'm going to show you a dictation demo, and I'm going to go back here. And I'm now in Office 365, but everything I'm showing you here is also in Word Online. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click dictate. And once I click dictate, I can't talk to you because it will dictate what I'm saying. I am dictating my work now, full stop. It is much quicker than typing, even though I am a quick typist, full stop, new line. It spells everything correctly, which is fab, exclamation mark, new line. It is not perfect, so it's very important to listen back to any work that is dictated and use your typing skills to correct it, full stop. Absolutely fab functionality and free. And as I say, I've created a lot of videos recently comparing all the free typing option, dictation options. So I will show you that. But something else, if you're in primary school. Now, I don't show this to my teenagers until I've taught them to type, because it is so much easier than typing that they won't have the motivation to learn to type. And they can't dictate in exams, or very, very, very few students can dictate in exams. So you don't want them to become dependent on something that they will then not be able to use in exams. So for my teenagers, I teach typing first and then dictation. And I think they are complementary skills, because it's not always perfect. And then you need your typing skills to correct what it gets wrong. But if you're in primary school, but I also think before students are dexterous enough to learn to type, dictation is wonderful. And what I do with my younger students, I'm going to show you now. I'm going to change the font to be similar to cursive writing that we teach at school. You could pick a font that you like better. I'm going to make it really big, maybe not that big, so you can see a bit more of it. And then I'm going to make the color a very, very light gray. And what you can do then, you don't have to have these massive paragraphs. I'll just make it all a bit smaller and make it single. And didn't really change anything. I don't know why I bothered to do that. But you can then have a child dictate a story, print it out, and then go over the cursive script with their handwriting, and then they feel like they've handed in a piece of work that they have created, because many of these children have great imaginations, great storytelling skills. They just can't get it down on paper. So I'll come back to my PowerPoint slide. So I've done dictation and I've done typing. And I want to tell you that I run the most brilliant touch typing course. I am so proud of it, because it's not just a touch typing course. I shouldn't call it that. It's called Touch Typing and Technologies for Academic Success. And what I do is I group together not just teaching touch typing, although I do believe that it is a forgotten skill and we've lost the skill of teaching touch typing, and technology. And I teach both children at the same time, because if they can't type, they can't access the technology. But if they don't understand why and the benefits of learning to type on their grades, then they don't have the motivation to put the time in to get the muscle memory. So the two go very, very well together. I tend to teach it for primary age students over the summer holidays. And I do that because I believe the amount of time that it takes to learn to touch type is really, really hard on top of the school day and learning spellings and revising for this. It's just too hard. So I like to use the summer holidays for younger students, and for older students, I can do October and February and in Easter, but younger students need that long summer holiday to embed the skills. And so the content is different. I do typing and technology. The delivery is always remote. And when it's remote, I'd gone remote before the pandemic. They have a keyboard dedicated to it, and they have a webcam, and I'm able to supervise far better on these remote courses than I was when I was walking around checking them. And also it makes it so much easier for parents not having to drive them anywhere. But I start off remote, and then over the holiday, it becomes distant. And that means I set them the typing work to do. I check daily how they're doing. I can see everything that they're doing, but I just set them the work. And then we have this WhatsApp group that if I see, oh, you haven't practiced for a couple of days, or I see your results have gone up or your results have gone down, and we meet once a week, and then I reward them for progress made, the amount of practice they've done, and children come on amazingly over the summer. But the other thing is I teach the parents how important it is and how to supervise typing. And so what happens is I have these amazing results over one summer, and the kids are then more than capable of typing all their homework for the rest of their lives at the end of it. And they get much better grades. And that's mostly my Google reviews of parents and students saying, oh my goodness, that changed my life. That was the best course I ever did. So that is really good. And I talk about when to teach touch typing. I do think it's really critical when you do it. Now, if we're just thinking from a dexterity point of view, the best time to teach touch typing would be between 13 and 14, before GCSEs start. So they have time to devote to develop the muscle memory. But I've had some absolute disasters with 13, 14-year-olds where they're like, Miss, I can't be bothered, Miss. Miss, I'm not going to do well anyway. Miss, it's boring. I just want to be like my friends. I'm not going to do it. And that is just so, so discouraging when you see these bright kids that if they just typed in their GCSEs, they would do so much better, but they're not engaged and they're not even going to try. Whereas when I try to introduce typing in primary schools, children are really excited by it. And I believe if they get good before they get to 14 and it's just their normal way of working, then the fact that they're different from their friends won't be such a big ordeal. So really, I think this is the sweet spot. Under 10, it can be dangerous because they just haven't got the dexterity. And then they can think, oh, well, I'm rubbish at typing. Because sometimes I have students come to me and the parents say, oh, we've tried and tried and they're really rubbish. And I say, look, I'll get them typing. And they come to me and then they really do well. And sometimes that's because my methods are very good. But other times it's just because they probably started too young and gave up. And when they come back to me and they're older and wiser and more dexterous, they just fly. And it makes it look like, oh, it's because my course is awesome. And it's no, they just started too early. And so there is a danger. And the other thing of starting too early is if children are not using the skill to type essays, then they're going to lose it. So you don't teach it really until they're able to start using it. So that's my 2 penneth on when to teach touch typing. But because I do believe that teaching touch typing is a lost art, I've created a playlist for parents and teachers all about how to teach touch typing. So in an ideal world, everyone would come on my courses, but I know that that's never going to happen. So I've tried to pass on tips in this playlist. But there are lots of ways I can help schools. Some schools just promote my touch typing courses to the parents that they think will need it. So that just means that you just promote it and then I get them typing and they come back to school able to type. Other schools will ask me to come in and advise on how they can teach touch typing internally more effectively. Or I can actually teach a touch typing school at like an activity week before you break up for the summer holidays. And then while you guys are on holiday, I keep the kids going over the summer holidays. So you can have one specific week for your school, or you can promote mine, or I can show you how to teach touch typing more effectively. So if we say at 16, 17, 18, we want students to be laptop users in exams and use a computer reader, what do we have to have in place to make that happen? Well, they have to learn to type, and they have to learn to use this typing to get good grades and be practiced at brainstorming and reorganizing and using synonyms and, you know, being good at typing. They need to get used to using a computer reader. It needs to be their normal way of working. So they need to be getting their electronic textbooks via listening to textbooks, not just reading textbooks. They could have better notes if they're using technology to get better notes in class. And when it comes to primary school, I use dictation before they learn to type, but also the use of audio books, immersive reading, and intervention solutions all get students using technology earlier, seeing this is normal, this is good. I do really well when I use tech. So by the time they get to secondary school, they just see it as just being the norm. I always use technology. But the other thing that I always do is I always try to work on student self-esteem, because if a child thinks I'm thick, I'm not going to do well in my exams anyway, then they're not going to put in the effort to learn to dictate or learn to type or learn to, you know, use text readers. They just can't be bothered. Their esteem is so low that they just can't be bothered. And I find that the biggest barrier to success, which is why I try to start early. On my website, I have lots of resources for helping the things that I've found help to get the self-esteem of students up. These are all the different technologies that I use in primary schools with students. We've already looked at reading to learn and getting ideas down on paper. And then I have a couple of demos now on what I use for learning to read and encouraging reluctant readers. But obviously I haven't got demos for all of these because we just haven't got time. And when it comes to secondary age students, these are all the things that I use it for. So I think it's really good for getting them organized, committing things to memory, learning new information, but I haven't got time to show all that now. So when it comes to reading to learn, I use electronic textbooks. I don't know if anyone has used this, but I use something called RNIB Bookshare. And RNIB Bookshare is completely free, and it is absolutely brilliant. So here, this is a GCSE book. This is an Inspector Calls. And here we see exactly the same pictures and words that are in this book. But instead of just carrying it around in their bags and never reading it, they can have it read aloud to them.
Plot summary. What happens in An Inspector Calls. Act 1. Meeting the characters. Copyright Simple David Muscroft /Shutterstock. The Burling family and Joel.
So I'm going to stop that, but I'm also going to show you in this particular format what you can do. And remember, RNIB Bookshare is for anybody with a print disability. They haven't got to have a visual disability. It's a print disability, of which dyslexia is one. Schools have membership because they want to protect their intellectual property, but you can decide which students get it. And I can make the font Open Dyslexic. I can make it bigger. I can make it better for visual stress. I can change the speed and the voice. So let's see how that looks now and carry on.
Copyright Simple David Muscroft /Shutterstock. The Burling family and Joel Croft are celebrating Sheila's engagement to Joel. Mr. Burling makes pompous speeches outlining his views.
Beautiful, beautiful immersive reader. And I feel I'm a good reader. I got a 2-1 at university. And yet when I'm reading for new information, I listen to it at the same time, because that way I'm using my sense of hearing as well as my sight. And it means I don't have to reread the same page to get the meaning. And so you finish your revision or your reading so much quicker. So that's electronic textbooks. It's just a very quick look. There's so much more I could show you there, but obviously we don't have time because we're getting to the end. So that's electronic textbooks. Reading for pleasure. There's two things that I want to show you. And one of them is just the whole Overdrive read-along books. Now, Overdrive books are the books that most libraries use Overdrive. And this is a particular book in Star Wars, and it's found in these libraries. So these are school libraries, and I'm just going to show it to you briefly. This is a sample of this read-along book.
Hello, I am C-3PO, and you are about to listen to the story of Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. You can also read along with the story in your book. Unless you are already programmed to know when the pages end, you will know it is time to turn the page when you hear this sound. I believe the storyteller is ready, so let us begin.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
Right, so that's as much as I wanted to show you, and I showed you quite a lot because I wanted you to hear that it isn't just immersive reader, it is also you get all the sound effects and the different characters' voices. So my son hated reading, but he loved Star Wars. So books like this were absolutely brilliant for us. And the next thing I want to make you aware of is something called Immersive Reader. Now, this isn't free. Overdrive is free, but they might only have one of those books. And so only your students can only do it one at a time. But when it comes to Immersive Reader, now this week, there's a Black Friday sale on, and you can get Kindle Fires for $29.99. And they are a much cheaper device than an iPad, but they're just fantastic. They're not as good as an iPad in a lot of ways, but when it comes to reading, they're absolutely wonderful. And I would recommend watching this video, especially this week when you can get them at such a cheap price. And what this video does is it goes on and shows you lots of dyslexia-friendly features. And it also shows you what text-to-speech is like on a... So text-to-speech is when you don't have the audio book. You're just having that read aloud. Now, see if I can read it to you now. So that is the text-to-speech, the electronic voice, and it's actually not that bad at all. And it's better than it sounds in the video because just in the recording, there was an echo on it, but it is very, very good. And if my book club comes up with a book that there isn't an audio book for, then I listen to it using text-to-speech on my Kindle. And I don't do the immersive reader because it doesn't highlight anything anyway, but I might have the Kindle on my seat next to me as I drive because there's no audio book and I want to use that dead time while I'm driving to listen to my book. So that's one thing that you can do, but I just go on and then show you if you have the audio book as well as the Kindle book, what you can do. And here I'm doing it with Gangster Granny, and I'm showing that you get all the same, it will read out all those labels. So the child does not miss out on anything by having it on the Kindle. So there you've got David Williams reading at the same time as the text is being highlighted. And I've seen prep schools buy, 6 or 7 of these cheap Kindle Fires, and then they have these reading times, and the children are so excited about going for the reading time, and they'll be reading a book and have someone like David Williams or Stephen Fry reading a book, and they're following along with it, and they absolutely love it. So it's taken reading from being a real, do I have to something that the students really enjoy. And then I want to just show you briefly an intervention solution. Now, intervention solutions are, instead of having a TA take kids out and go through the phonics again in a smaller group, this is something that's personalized for each individual child. So it's only teaching them the stuff that they struggle with, and it gives them correction straight away. They don't have to hand in something that's marked, and it allows them to repeat the same thing as often as they want in a game form without having to say, sorry, miss, I still don't get it, I still don't understand. And it's just wonderful. And also, I mean, I paid for dyslexia tutors for my children, but I could only afford them once a week. But this they can do every day. They can do it in the holidays. They can do it on an iPad while they're waiting for the sibling to finish the swimming lesson. So they're really mobile, they're really flexible. And there's, I mean, I have got a whole video here where I share of the benefits of using technology, and it's much cheaper than using staff, and kids enjoy it more. And then in this video, I compare 7 different intervention solutions. And what I've done is I've just got one intervention solution to show you. And I'm looking to see if I can find it. So it's Nessie Reading and Spelling. It's one of the cheaper ones. From a research point of view, I don't think it's the best one, but I love it because kids love it. But kids can cheat. These dyslexic kids don't want to learn to spell, and they don't want to learn to read, but they do want to earn nuggets, and they do want to have fun. And so a lot of dyslexic kids have worked out how to do Nessie. Now, the GUI is brilliant, and it's all about winning games. And when you go through the games, they come out, the islands come out of the clouds. And when you're on each island, you've got individual goals. I will just mute that because it gets a bit noisy, but it is a bit, so mute side. And all these animals are asleep. And as you learn different words, it wakes up the animals, and they earn nuggets, and the children love it. But you do have to use it well. So I come across some schools that say, oh, we had Nessie for a while, but the children didn't progress. But I would say that's because they weren't using it properly. Now, every child gets fed up with Nessie and has had enough at some point, but they can learn an awful lot before then. And one of the things I do a lot is I teach schools and parents how to use Nessie to its full advantage. And when you do, I think it's really, really cost-effective way of helping children advance in a way they want that frees up your staff. So that is all the demos I was going to show you. We've done them all now. You can get a free trial for Nessie Reading and Spelling if you haven't done so already. For individuals, they only give it to you for a week, but for a school, you could get it for a month. And if you said after a month, well, I'm still not sure, they let you have it for a bit longer. But if you do decide to go down that path, I would recommend you get in touch with me. So I hope in the demo that I've shown you that you see that technology enables students to exceed expectations. It doesn't only improve exam results, but self-esteem and just future life opportunities. And if I was to ask the question, what stops schools using technology? I believe it's a lack of awareness, not the cost, because you probably have devices in the school right now that have a lot of these features on that are not being used. But even if you haven't, even if you have no devices at all in the school, they have at home. Most of these students have it at home, but they're not using it at home. And so the sort of training that I provide, I can help teachers make lessons more dyslexia friendly. This is more for secondary students. I can teach them to touch type, and I can teach them how to revise. I'm very good at helping students learn how to revise. But I think one of the ways I can add the most value for any school is to do some sort of parent training, because as a parent myself who had kids that were failing, and I can show the reports of when they're failing, I'm not making it up, to excelling, and I put them in private schools and I still had to do a lot to support them. Parents will learn from me in a way that they would never, ever take input from a school, because they'll see like, well, you know, that's what I'm paying you for. That's your job. Why are you pushing it on to me? And when I say, well, actually, I had to do this and I had to do that, but I'm so glad I did, because now my children are able to do blah, blah, blah. And I think that's one of the ways I add the most value, because parents are so often this untapped resource that just need to be trained in a lot of ways. So that's everything I was going to show, but I'm really into keeping costs down. And I do believe that I pay for myself, because My consultancy isn't expensive. I direct you to videos that are free, but also everything I try to get you to use is what you've already got. I'm trying to help get you to access what you already have. So does anybody have any questions? I decided to finish the recording there as I didn't want the individuals who were asking questions to be on the video. I hope you found this video useful. If so, please do share it with anyone who might benefit. Thanks for watching.